Hi, I'm Daryl Owens. Welcome to A World of Difference. Scottish philosopher Thomas Carlyle observed that man is a tool-using animal. Without tools, he is nothing. With tools, he is all. For kids with learning differences, one of the most powerful tools at their disposal is assistive technology. What is it? Assistive technology, or AT, are products, equipment, and systems that enhance learning, working, and daily living for persons with disabilities. Tools that, when properly implemented in the classroom or in the home, can empower students who learn differently, and by making learning more accessible, provide them a vibrant voice in their education. On this episode, you'll discover the latest AT gadgets and gizmos in an in-the-know interview with an industry expert. Next, we'll take a deeper dive into AT in our Ask the Experts conversation with Google's accessibility guru. Later, you'll meet our latest difference maker, who leveraged her dyslexia to write a happy ending as a popular children's book author. But first, Health Day News anchor and A World of Difference special correspondent Mabel Jeanne explores the evolving world of assistive technology.
Hello, I'm Mabel Jeanne. The Assistive Technology Industry Association, or ATIA, is the global leader in assistive technology education and research. Their mission is to serve as the collective voice of the assistive technology industry to help ensure that the best products and services are delivered to those who need them, including students with learning differences. Each year since 1999, the association has held a conference to showcase products and services for the assistive technology community. David Dikter, the Chief Executive Officer of ATIA, is here to summarize the takeaways from this year's conference, which was held in late January. David manages the overall mission of the organization to bring assistive technology to people with disabilities and was responsible for organizing the recent ATIA conference. What were some of the highlights and takeaways from the meeting?
We've been hosting our event for over 20 years, and we really focus on technologies that make significant differences in the lives of students and adults and children. I think that now the set of tools that we have available, and it continues to evolve, whether it be adding in AI functions for image recognition and all kinds of really awesome stuff. I think that it's all become more robust than I could have even imagined back 20 or 30 years ago. So for students who really struggle with writing, and many students do, whether they're disabled or whether they're just struggle with writing, being able to type the first letter of a word you're thinking of and being able to then make a selection of that word as opposed to typing every letter out can make a significant difference for how you streamline your thought process and your writing skill. And we have this range of technologies around, a lot of technologies focused on children and learning and students, focused on things like communication and communication skills, things like note-taking. How do students get the information from the classes that they're in and then leverage it and use that, whether it be high school or college or even middle school and elementary school. We did have some really interesting uses of technology. Some of the technologies coming along there are like being able to take a picture of a whiteboard or have a whiteboard send data directly to a student and be able to get the notes from a teacher right away. That is monumental in the life of children. Being able to very efficiently take a PDF or take some document that a teacher gives you, be able to scan it efficiently with a mobile device or with a tablet, take a picture of it, and then have it read aloud to you, or take something off the web and be able to have it read aloud to you, because you just will never get through the chore of reading. Your ability to kind of phonemically read is just not great. And you have a whole lot of cognition, and you can think and you can understand, but reading that text on a page just is such a monumental task. Some other technologies I think is we're getting better at voice and speech recognition. So being able to speak to a device, have it basically just turn that into text. I think of, there's one company that I think of that that has created some software that works with Microsoft Office. It works with all the Google Chrome and all the Google Docs, and it's an additional plugin that kind of works with all these tools to help with writing and word prediction, to help with reading aloud some of the content. So you might have a story off of the web or a story in a PDF. How does a student then read that efficiently and then be able to then leverage that content? These technologies are available to anyone. They often are set up as a subscription in the school system where the parent might actually get free access to some of it because it's part of what the school system is purchasing.
Are some technologies more accessible and affordable than others? And what would you recommend to parents who can't afford to buy one of these products for their child?
I advocate the same thing when asked this question all the time. Number one, public education systems are responsible for purchasing assistive technology as part of a student's IEP if it is identified by the school and the IEP team to be needed and necessary and appropriate.
All right, some exciting stuff. Thank you so much, David Dikter.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I've been speaking with David Dikter, CEO of the Assistive Technology Industry Association. Thanks for watching. I'm Mabel Jeanne.
Good stuff, Mabel. Our next guest gets personal with AT, offering insights and strategies to help families best leverage assistive technology to enhance their child's chances for success. Laura Allen is the head of strategy for accessibility and disability inclusion at Google. She works across teams to improve the accessibility and usability of Google products and processes, and to make Google a more accessible and inclusive place for people with disabilities. So Laura, let's dig in. Can you give us an overview of what is considered assistive technology?
Yeah, so assistive technology can really encompass so many different things. I think about it as anything that can assist somebody with a disability to have a more inclusive and accessible experience. So this could be a specialized device, as you mentioned, like a specialized, refreshable braille display, things like that. It could also be different assistive tools built into devices. So in accessibility settings on your smartphone or in your browser, on your different laptops, things like that. I even go as far as to think of assistive technology as physical devices. So, for example, if someone's blind or low vision who uses a cane to navigate the world, or who's using a wheelchair for a mobility impairment, I think all of this kind of encompasses assistive technology. It's a really wide range.
So what is the goal of assistive technology?
So the goal of assistive technology is really to help to make a more inclusive and accessible and equitable experience for people with a wide range of disabilities. So for example, I happen to have a visual impairment, and it impacts everything that I look directly at. So for me, looking at a computer screen can be challenging. I'm not able to see all of the text. I'm not able to see a clear picture of the screen. So I use assistive technology to fill in those different gaps. So I listen to text read aloud. I also will invert my colors because I'm very light sensitive. I slightly enlarge the text. I use a larger mouse cursor. So I get to kind of customize and adapt my situation on my device to be really inclusive so that it works for me. So this is something that people with a wide range of disabilities can do, customize their situations and use the features that work best for them to get the most out of their technology.
What are some of the common uses of assistive technology for students with learning differences?
So there are lots of different features that you could use with students with learning disabilities. So I actually spent a number of years at Google working on the Chromebook accessibility team at Google. And Chromebooks are being so heavily used across classrooms now, and there are lots of different features built in at the accessibility settings of Chromebooks. So one feature that actually can be very useful for students with learning disabilities is called Select to Speak. And what Select to Speak does is it allows you to select certain text on the screen or a certain section of the screen and have only that text read aloud to you. And you can have word by word highlighting of the text as it's read. So there's a better audio and visual connection. And there are some newer features as well within Select to Speak. So for example, if a student has difficulty focusing on the page and maybe they're getting distracted, you can set the Select to Speak feature so that it will shade the background content behind whatever you've selected. So if I just choose one paragraph, it will make that paragraph stand out. It will read everything to me and have the word by word highlighting. And then everything behind it will be shaded in gray. So it's not distracting me. It's not getting in the way of me learning. So that's one feature I would definitely suggest checking out. There are lots of other functionalities within it too. So you can pause and resume. You can speed up the speech rate and slow down. You can change the voices. You can change that word by word highlighting color if certain colors are most useful for certain students. So lots of different ways that you can customize that feature. And on Chromebooks, we also have another feature called Focus Highlights, which essentially will help to draw a colorful focus ring around key parts of the screen. So around the mouse cursor as you move it, around the text caret as you're typing, and around the item that has your keyboard focus. So if you're pressing the tab key or the arrows, for example. And what this does is it helps to create more visual connection to the screen. And it can help so that you're not getting as distracted. If you're typing and you want to keep your eyes on where you're typing, it's got this nice colorful circle there for you just to stay engaged and to stay focused on that core content. So lots of different types of features that you can customize on a Chromebook.
Where does the accessibility of universal design end and assistive technology begin?
So yeah, when you think about universal design for learning and inclusive design, it's so important as people are building out technologies. So you can think about it in a few different ways. One way is that we have to build assistive technology tools into our devices, like some of the features I just mentioned that are built into Chromebooks or are built into Android devices, just as an example. But there are also, it's so important that as you're on a device and you're navigating different applications or you're navigating the web, that people have put design consideration into all of those different sites and all of those services and products as well. So that's where this concept of inclusive design or universal design for learning is so important. And in schools, this is most important, thinking about, is educational material accessible? So we have tools to be able to access. We have screen reading technology and magnification and switch control, all sorts of different assistive tech tools. But we have to make sure that the actual material, the classroom materials, the lessons, we have to make sure those are accessible as well. So if we have, a lesson that's being sent out, is it something that has really strong contrast for somebody who might be low vision? Is it something that can be listened to through a screen reader? If it's a video, are there captions? Otherwise, a student will have to use automatic captions, which is certainly available. We have many different features for automatic captions, but a best practice for a teacher, of course, is to add manual captions and make sure they are fully accurate. So there's this concept of just making sure that whatever materials or whatever websites that we're accessing, we need to make sure that they are also accessible and inclusive. So it's up to technology companies, it's also up to web developers and app developers, it's up to educators to be prioritizing inclusion.
Since individualized education program teams at schools are required to consider the need for assistive technology, parents are afforded an opportunity to encourage a thoughtful discussion of the potential use of the tools for their child. What should parents ask to steer the conversation and ensure that their kids receive the proper tools possible to help them succeed?
That's a really great question. And I think you're so right. It's so important for parents to be getting involved in these conversations and help to be champions for their children with learning disabilities or any disability. I know that I was so grateful for my parents getting involved when I was young, going through disability changes and not necessarily knowing how to advocate for myself. So I do think that is so important. And asking questions about, what will the classroom environment look like? Will there be group work? And what sort of technology will my child be using? Will there be accessibility considerations for the technology? Or will my student be able to, or will my child be able to have extra time if needed on an exam or an assignment? Just getting that relationship with the educator is really important, and being able to have that communication, because of course, as you know, through any given year of school, things come up and you need to be able to pivot and adapt and be able to, get back to being able to get the materials fully accessibly. So it's really about a two-way communication path. And I will say also, we've heard a lot of educators and parents and guardians using things like, for example, Google Forms, where sometimes they'll use a Google form to track things in an IEP. And they can have each teacher that a student is working with fill it out at different points of the year. And then it's, there's a nice time stamp, and you can look at the different responses that are being submitted and track a student's progress. But it's just a nice way to be able to see, well, how are we doing with everything that's in the student's IEP? Are we making progress, and is the student progressing as we'd like to see? So different tips like that you can also talk with the school about, of how do we not only enable the student, but how do we track progress and make sure that they're comfortable?
Many classrooms around the country are stocked with Chromebooks. Are Chromebooks in and of themselves assistive technology?
It's a great question. I do think there's so much assistive technology that is built into Chromebooks now. Just right within accessibility settings, there are lots of different features, again, from text-to-speech, to magnification, to contrast inversion, to navigating with a switch controller. There are many more different features. But I will say that having that evaluation is still very, very important, because a student, especially a young student, perhaps who's navigating their disability early on and they don't necessarily know what are the right tools for them, having that sort of evaluation to deep dive into the tools that are available to them can be absolutely transformational. So yes, we have the tools, but we also need educators and parents and guardians to be empowered with the knowledge of advising their students on how to best use the device and how to get the most out of the device. So I do think that there is a combination that's needed there.
As the Google suite of tools becomes more ubiquitous in the go-to tools on the web, what's new in the Google realm in terms of assistive technology?
There are lots of new tools. There are lots of things built in across different devices. So, for example, the ability to have live captions across so many different Google products. So you can have.
Watch the full Ask the Expert segment on our website at awodtv.org if you want to learn more about AT. You can also watch or listen on Facebook, YouTube, or on your favorite podcasting platform. Next, let's turn the page and meet our latest difference maker. Growing up, Jeanne Betancourt struggled to learn to read and write. Her struggle to master those skills led her to hone in on the world around her, soaking up details. Years later, Betancourt discovered a passion for making up stories and writing them down. Good thing. Betancourt parlayed her storytelling into a successful career as a children's book author, a chapter in her life that she credits her dyslexia for authoring. Our correspondent, Michelle Wargo, brings us the story.
I think it is important that kids who are dyslexic and plan to attend college know who the famous dyslexics are and that they have succeeded because of dyslexia, not in spite of it.
Jeanne Betancourt is an accomplished writer of fiction for children and young adults. She wrote I Am Brain Brian and the very successful Pony Pals series, in addition to dozens of scripts for film and television. Today, Jeanne is joining us to tell us that she was in her 40s before realizing that she has dyslexia.
I already had been an educator for 17 years in high schools. In the end, I was teaching filmmaking and film studies. And after those 17 years, I became a children's book author and a script writer. And I was doing my absolutely first ABC after school special. While that was all happening to me, my daughter, who was by then in high school when I had my first special, and she was struggling with school, countless meetings with the school where they would say she was an underachiever. And at this shoot for my video, I was on set in case there were some emergencies with the script, and also just because it was so darn exciting. And the mother of my star for the show, she worked in education and she was helping kids with learning differences. And I asked her what that was about. And she explained dyslexia to me, and light bulb went off, and I'm going, that's my daughter. I recognized that I too was dyslexic and made some adjustments in my life to accommodate for that, mostly more patience with myself. And that's how I found out.
Jeanne is a recipient of the American Psychological Association's National Psychological Award for Excellence in the Media and several Children's Choice Awards. She also received 6 Emmy Award nominations for her after-school specials written for ABC television. Jeanne shares her process on researching her subjects and developing her characters.
I always write the outline first, a very complete outline, and I think about my characters' lives other than when they're in my stories. I've worked with some really tough subjects. My after-school specials were about parental kidnapping, my sexual abuse of children by a friend of the family, teen pregnancy, drug abuse. I mean, all these subjects, whenever I was asked, when a subject would come up between me and the director, or the producer would suggest something for the ABC after school specials, I did 6 of them. Then I would go out and interview people. When I did a script about a woman in a homeless shelter and her daughter, I went and talked to people in a homeless shelter and went to the homeless shelter, and that's how I did my research, and audio taping, taking notes, just absorbing and being in the space. And I have a really strong visual memory, so that helped me enormously in my writing. I could read pictures, scenes, and figure out how they could work in the story.
She attributes her success in the creative arts to her superpower, dyslexia.
So many artists, architects, photographers, people in any of the visual occupations and social services and psychology are dyslexic. I say psychology because I think there's an empathy and understanding of personhood that comes with being dyslexic, because we have to listen so carefully to get by in the world.
Jeanne now shares a personal story about how the awareness of dyslexia has changed education for those with learning differences.
Yesterday, my family, I wasn't involved, but my daughter and granddaughter and son-in-law went to look at a boarding school that specializes in helping dyslexic kids called Eagle Hill. And they went for a physical tour of the plant. And I was talking to my daughter about it after it had snowed there. And the campus was absolutely gorgeous. And I said, how did BULU do? And she was like, great. She was fidgety and she was picking up snow. And when they went into the drumming room, she's a drummer, so she drummed. And she was so excited about the art studio, and she's touching everything because that's what she does. And nobody cared. She said, any other school I was going to for an interview, and I'd have expected, that you'd be very well behaved. And she was well behaved, but she was well behaved within her universe of feeling the world, as it were. And they loved her at that school because they know about learning differences and they respect them. And they have a whole population of kids for the last, I think, 60 years. Why I never knew about it, we'll never quite understand. But that, that gladdened my heart so much because Nicole and I didn't have that opportunity. She's had that opportunity for an education that's tailored for learning differences from, I think, 5th grade, she started at, or fourth grade, she started at Gaynor. And with my daughter, it wasn't till she got to Sarah Lawrence where she had some assistance. But, for me, God, I was so old.
With such a successful and varied career, what's next for Jeanne Betancourt?
More of the same. I'm a tap dancer. I was dancing 3 days a week, an hour and a half a day at a studio near here. Started tap dancing when I was 6. Helped me a lot with dyslexia, by the way, because of the right-left business and seeing yourself reversed in the mirror. I really recommend you look at my website. Not my art website, but my book website, which is justmyname.com. There are 2 videos on it. I address dyslexia in some of the blogs. I don't keep it current because I'm not writing anymore, and I have an art blog. I'm 79 years old. I've taught for 17 years. I wrote intensely for 30. During 20 of those 30 years, I was also doing art and taking art classes. And I still get letters in fan mail, which is so heartening. But now I can concentrate on my art. And if the studios ever open up again, I can go back to tap dancing.
Reporting in Orlando for A World of Difference, I'm Michelle Wargo.
Thanks, Michelle. And congratulations, Jeanne Betancourt, for making a difference. And that does it for this edition of A World of Difference. If you have questions you'd like our experts to tackle, or if you'd love to share your family's story in an upcoming episode, contact us on our website, awodtv.org. I'm Daryl Owens. We'll see you here next time. You can watch episodes of A World of Difference on the Beacon College Facebook and YouTube channels and on the show's website, awodtv.org. The website also provides tip sheets and other resources for your parenting journey. And you can listen to the show on the go on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and other popular podcasting platforms. Thank you for watching and supporting A World of Difference.